Within the testing services portfolio, I would like to touch upon the different areas where we have the capability and deliver world-class services. First and foremost is functional testing. This is the area where today's demo is been focusing on. So we are going to touch upon how we can deliver DevOps ready, fully automated tests for functional testing, which should go and align with the DevOps process. Second, another important area for us is ERP testing. We are the partners of SAP as well as QAD, and we have delivered many SAP and QAD projects successfully. And in this space, we have also built a test framework which is very unique and can deliver a significant value to our customers. We are also going to touch upon that in today's webinar. Other areas are performance testing, mobility, security, and service virtualization. Now, service virtualization is a very new testing service that we have launched in partnership with HP. And this is an area we see significant investment coming from customers, because service virtualization can significantly reduce the cost of test infrastructure and bring acceleration to the test cycle by virtualizing different test environments, which could be expensive and may not be today, maybe today available only in the production, but may not be available, say, in the test environment. Okay, so today's theme of the webinar. Now, if you see, most of the organizations would be wanting to basically adopt more matured processes in IT development, maintenance, and operations, so that they are able to leverage significant cost savings as well as basically deliver code on a continuous integration or a DevOps model. So depending on the process maturity of the client in testing space, so somebody may be having testing services which is embedded as a part of a development project, or some other customer may have a higher maturity wherein they have already moved to Agile and they are now looking at being DevOps ready, or some clients may be undergoing a digital transformation, and therefore it makes perfect sense for them to today move to DevOps, because they will then be able to deliver a higher return of investment to the business. There were days when we saw that the release or development cycle used to be 1 month or 1 quarter or even more than that. But today, most of the organizations who have adopted digital transformation are looking at continuous integration, that is code delivery within 2 days, 3 days, or even a week. So that is only possible if you have testing which is fully automated. Without automation and without reduction in manual effort, we will not be able to get into a state where we can support continuous integration. And today's topic is about that. Okay. Now, as I already mentioned to you all, that automation in testing has got a very important role to play in this entire DevOps readiness. So the key elements that we need to consider in test automation to be DevOps ready is data driven. So the framework that we built for testing has to be data driven. Second, it has to be configurable. So can we make it configurable? That would mean that reusability of test assets by configuring only certain parameters. I will talk about this in much details in the subsequent slides. Reusability is primarily what we mean here by reusability is developing accelerators, which is a framework. We have done significant development of accelerators in the area of SAP testing and also in the area of banking and insurance. We are going to talk about that as well. Ease of maintenance of the automation framework as well as the automation scripts. And finally, we should have a totally integrated testing tool workbench. That would mean that right from requirements management till test design, then moving on to test execution, then finally integrating the entire thing with the development workbench. So we have been able to successfully do that with our framework, and today our framework integrates with SAP as well as with other technologies like Pega, Microsoft, as well as Java development. So in our framework, we use certain techniques that significantly improves the usability as well as reduces the manual effort. So these techniques are the graphical workflow model design. We use a tool or an engine to basically design the test cases or the test scenario using a graphical interface. So this tool can also take input from any requirements management tool. Means if you are using Gherkin or Excel or Visio to do or capture the business process requirement, this can be seamlessly integrated with our framework, wherein the requirements can directly be imported into the graphical design tool, and the tool automatically will generate the model. We can then edit and further modify the model to basically bring in the attributes like what are the test conditions, etc., and complete the test design. So this is a very powerful tool because it uses algorithms and AI to optimize and design. The next in the technique is that we use these tools primarily to generate automated test cases. That is, we totally eliminate any manual work in test case generation, in test metrics, and also in test hardness. Now, test hardness is very important over here because we are talking about automation, and irrespective of the different automation tools that we use, means some clients can opt for HP, some clients may want to opt for Selenium, some may want to opt for, say, Microsoft VSCS. So whichever different testing tools you are using, our framework will be able to generate the test harness for that particular tool. So this saves significant time and effort, and will benefit because it will remove the human error and also dependency on people and knowledge. Okay, so whatever I just explained to you earlier, this slide gives you a comprehensive picture of how the tool framework integrates end to end. Now, this is very specific to JKT because we have partnered with the leading technology vendors like HP. We also support open source, and we have partnered with a technology company from Finland to basically provide end-to-end integrated tool framework that can fully automate right from requirements till test execution. So on the left hand side, you will be able to see I was talking about the requirements. So the requirements can be captured in either Visio, Excel, Gherkin, or any other basically graphical modeling tool, that input can straight away be pulled into the workflow modeler or the designer. The advantage here is there is no human interface that is needed, and the model or the business flow is automatically generated using the framework. When we run you through the actual demo, we are going to show how all this is happening and how much effort and time can be saved using this concept. Now the next stage is generation of test cases. So once the model is ready, that is the entire business process flow has been captured and the test conditions has been incorporated in the model, then the tool has got a scripter or an engine which will generate the test cases as well as the test harness. So that is the next stage. And after that, the tool will generate the test cases and the test plan as well as the traceability metrics. So all this are then the manual effort to generate all this is eliminated, and we are able to use and modify them like you use an Excel or a Word document. You will be able to use and modify them. So that will save significant amount of time. Now, suppose imagine a situation when you are doing a small modification in the requirements part. So all you need to do is to go to the workflow model, make changes or amend or update the model, and then you just press a button and a new set of test cases, traceability metrics, and the test harness will get generated by the tool. So this model saves significant amount of time, and when you are using this for agile, so you have, say you are already in sprint 5. So sprint 1, 2, 3, 4 have model workflow models, or the test model is already ready for 1, 2, 3, 4, and when you will go and add for sprint 5, you can do the impact analysis using this tool, and the tool is going to tell you that these are the test cases that you need to use to test your sprint 5. So that we are therefore able to save significant time by reducing manual work and primarily by eliminating human effort error that is induced by humans, because primarily the quality of work will vary from people to people, and if you can eliminate too much of human intervention, then human error in this entire process can be eliminated. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So we have called it TQA, or Total Quality Assurance. So this framework, as I have already mentioned, I would just like to emphasize on the value, or basically the principles that we use in this framework. First, this is a data-driven testing or test automation. It's not a record and play at all. Second, our framework uses high reusability and ready deployability accelerators. We are going to show you in an SAP space how we have been able to leverage this usability and deployability of test design. Third, the framework automatically generates the test harness, so the effort needed primarily to write automation scripts reduces significantly. Fourth, this tool seamlessly integrates with different workbenches, so it is basically you can have a single tool, a workbench that will support development as well as testing as well as basically code release or operations. Next. Now here, this is an example as to how we have successfully used our framework in banking. Now, what we have done in banking is primarily for entire core banking, internet banking business area, we have built reusable business process assets or the design. It's already ready. So whenever say we have to do a testing in a banking, all we need are the validations and the test criteria and any business process that is different from what we have already pre-configured in this framework. So we need to only identify that. That would mean that about 80% of effort for design is already pre-built in this framework. All we need is 20% of effort, which to capture the test validations that are needed and the test conditions, and any delta change in the business process that is there with the customer. So with that, a new set of test design will get ready. So we will be able to reduce the test design time in banking by more than 50%. So here there is an example that has been given. If you see the business requirements for let's take an example where we talk about testing an account opening. So you may have an account which is a savings account. Within that, there could be savings account for senior citizen. So let us take these two examples. Now the process of testing, say, account opening for a savings account or a senior citizen account, the business process flow will be same. Now this particular process for account opening has already been modeled in our framework. So when I am doing a testing for say savings account opening for senior citizen, I will only need to add that bit which is an additional information that is needed to capture in terms of age or any other facility that the senior citizen will get. So I need to only add that part in my readily available framework for testing the account opening, and I will be ready with then two scenarios. That is, one to test any savings account opening, and second to test the savings account for a senior citizen. This is just an example of reusability. So this way the entire framework has been built, which is modular. Okay. The similar concept we have been able to use for SAP. SAP is a package where when we do testing, we primarily have to test for the transactions. Means you go and normally do a configuration on the standard SAP for the transactions which map to the customers or client's business process, and if there is any gap, that gap is developed in Z tables, or primarily we do ABAP coding to basically bridge the functional gap that's the development work, right? So in both these cases, our framework has will be able to adopt both this kind of scenarios. Okay. So this what you see on the screen is nothing but again a tool setup as to how we have been able to set up the tool and how our framework will map onto this tool. So our framework runs very perfectly on HP tools, and we have used in this particular case, which we will be giving you demo as well, using HP tools. So HP ALM is used to primarily manage the testing as well as the test assets. Then the solution manager interfaces directly with HP ALM, and the HP tool interfaces with the JKT EQA framework, which you can see in the below left hand side, where we have mentioned graphic flow model creation and the script automation test tool. So I will explain this part of it. So what we do is that for different transactions in SAP, we have already created the model. The model is already ready. So if you are going to test different transactions in SAP based on the customers who would have used different ways of customizing SAP, all we need to do is to use the model that is already created and add test data and test conditions to my model, and then my design is ready. Step 1 is already done. Step 2 would be to generate the test cases and also to generate the test harness which runs on HP UFT. Because HP integrates very well with SAP and it also integrates very well with our framework. Therefore, we are giving this particular demo on this platform. But our tool and our framework can also run on Selenium and other automation tools. Next slide. Yeah, this is the same slide. Okay, so this looks to be a similar slide. So let us move on to the next one. Okay. Now this slide basically shows the high-level view of the SAP process that we are going to show you in the demo. So this is a sales order creating process, and if you can see, it is triggered by an event. That is, the customer could be interested to order for a product, and then he receives the code, and then once he confirms the code, the sales order is created in the SAP system. So the equation, if you see VA11, VA12, and VA13, which is highlighted in the events row, are nothing but the transaction codes for the customer request or quotation. Now let us come to the SO layer, that is the second last row. We have created this demo to basically show you how, using our framework, we are able to automatically design the sales order creation transactions in SAP, that is VA01, VA03, and VA02. And then we will be also showing you that how automatically the framework will generate the test cases as well as the test harness, that is the automation test scripts, and we are going to execute the same using HP UFT. So this is the demo that we are going to show you today. Next. In this slide, if you see on the right hand side, there is a column called Z tables. So Z table is nothing but primarily the above code that could be developed if there is any gap between the SAP process and what the customer wants. So in this part, we have highlighted that how do we include that as well into our test framework. Now moving on to the next slide. So this slide very clearly explains to us all as to what are the steps that are there in our framework if we are doing the standard SAP testing, which is depicted on the left hand side, and if we need to also include the Z tables in that particular in that situation, we will also have to include the steps that are there on the right hand side. So basically, in a nutshell, our framework integrates well in both the situations. So instead of going through and reading this out, today we have planned in our demo to demonstrate exactly the steps that are involved in right from requirements capturing to defining the test accelerators, to preparing the test data model, and finally generating the testing scripts, test harness, and executing the test using automation tool UFT. So before we move on to the demo, I would like to summarize the kind of benefits that you can get using this JKT's TQA framework. First is we can guarantee you 100% coverage, test coverage in terms of requirements. The way we do that is once the modeling is complete, whatever has been incorporated in the modeling, the tool gives us the report as to which all of them are covered in the test cases, and if something is not covered or it could not cover, that is highlighted. So that assurance or checking in terms of requirements coverage and mapping that with test cases is an automated feature of this framework. First. Second, now most of us, when we are doing test design manually, the number of test steps or test scenarios and test cases that we generate will vary depending on the experience of the test architect or the test designer. But in this particular case, in our framework, the tool has got algorithms and it optimizes the test design so that the number of test cases or test steps that it will produce using this tool will be at least 25 to 30% lower than if you would have done the test design manually. Next. Now, the other benefits that we get using this framework is most importantly cycle time reduction. As I have already told you all that when we are doing DevOps, we are actually looking for continuous integration. And today the business demands, like for example, if we are talking about a fully technology company like Google or any other company like Amazon, there the code releases happen every day. So when we are doing a code release every day, we need a significant reduction in cycle time as well as we need high level of automation. So this framework will be able to give you more than 35% reduction in test lifecycle time by automating and removing a lot of manual efforts. And that's exactly what we are going to show you subsequently in the demo. And finally, another significant benefit in our framework is that the test harness is automatically generated by our framework or the tool, and that again leads to at least 30-31% reduction in effort. So just let us do a recap as to how this TQA framework that we are going to demonstrate to you will benefit you all. First, designing and maintaining the test cases. This is fully automated. Optimizing the number of test cases. We saw that it reduces significant amount of test steps and effort. The writing of the executable test scripts, this also gets automated. And it is very easy to maintain, and the requirements or the functionality mapping to the test cases again is done automatic by the table. So if you are doing an impact analysis for your different sprints in an agile testing, this ideally will tell you what to test, which test cases to test for which functionality, or whatever changes you have made in the graphical model, the impact of that and which test cases to test for, the tool will automatically suggest you. So this feature reduces significant time and improves the productivity in testing. So with this, I think let us move on to demo and see all that I have just now shared with you in this slide. So I will now hand over to my colleague Somobroto, who is going to run you through the demo. Somobroto, please.
Thanks, Mr. Shokar, for a detailed overview of the TQA framework. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. I am Somobroto Maulik, and I will take this opportunity to create every individual who is a part of this webinar. Being the test architect, I will take you through the remaining part of the presentation. Now, we'll showcase the test automation tool. TQA framework completes the test automation in 3 procedural steps. So, the first is test modeling. Second one, compile and generate test cases. And lastly, test auto execution of the tool generated test scripts. Now, in order to succeed the regression testing and achieve 100% test coverage, we designed and captured every accessible screen object in structure diagram, and then we sequentially added every possible business actions in activity diagram. And these activities follow the DevOps model. Not only that, this tool also provides us the data-driven facility to put test data before generating test cases and set the logic for positive or negative testing as well. Without putting any manual effort, we can easily generate test cases, testability matrices, and test honest file which relates to testing functions and screen objects of the application. So we have already implemented many SAP transaction codes using this tool, and we use them as an accelerator in our SAP testing project. Now let's see how we process for each of the SAP transaction codes. So as I mentioned, as our tool, basically it has 3 steps to complete the test automation execution. The first is the test modeling. So in the test demo automation, we'll cover the sales order process, and which means sales order transaction created by the transaction code VA01, and then modify the sales order by transaction code VA02, and then display sales order by transaction code VA03. Now let's look at this tool. So this tool, give us the options to put each of the functionality and the modeling using this tool, and from the left hand side we can see the project tree. Now you can see over here from the left hand side the tool has a model structure over there and the DC is there. So initially what we do, so we'll start with the screen capturing that we call as the structure diagram. So on this screen you can see over here we have captured all of those screens which are available in our SAP sales order transactions code. So first we need to log in into the system. So we captured username and the password. Then we are putting the transaction code. So we have just captured all of those screens which are required to process and to successfully run the test execution. And here is the screen, that is the ISO creation, sales order creation, and these are the text field we captured over on this tool. So like the order type, sales organization, distribution channel, and the division. These are the mandatory fields which are required to create a sales order. Now over here you can see some red dot lines. These are describes the different kind of the drop down fields. So drop down fields are nothing but we are restricting different kind of test values. Like you can see over on the building block. Over on building block, we just captured only 4 values. So while we are putting test data into our test execution, so we can restrict them, or we can generate many more test cases based on those test values. Similarly, we are also capturing the order reason. Order reason is also restricted with 4 values. Now we are also capturing info location, the material number. These are basically the fields. When we will run the execution, then you can see these fields are available over on the SAP screens, different screens. And what we are doing over here, we are just putting those information. We are accommodating all of those fields in our screen design. and then we'll pass through and we'll put different information as a test data, like as the sales material table, which holds this type of different information like the item and the material details, then the order quantity. Now let's go to the business process flow. So over on the business process flow, what we do, first we initialize the process and then we go to the create SO VS01 this process. So over on this screen, we are just putting all of those actions sequentially one after one. First, what we need to do, first we need to log into the system, then we'll put the different information and the actions. So let's go one by one. So here is the form fields. We are putting the username and the password. Then we are giving instruction to our tool of what would be the T code to create the sales order, that is VS01. And then we are putting the another information for to create the SO with the different information. And then we are putting a sales order detail information. These are also called as the test data. And we can check all of those test data, and we can also provide test data using Excel sheet. So what we do basically, if we do the manual testing, we can provide the test Excel sheet where we can keep different kind of test data. Now our tool is also capable to use those Excel files to take as an input for all of those test data. So once the SO creation is done, our next business flow is to go and check whether the sales order creation has been done properly or not. So we just set a flag over there. So if it is completed successfully, then only we will go to the modification of that sales order. So over on here, we are just closing the session and opening a new session, and then we are going to the another business process flow, that is the modify sales order, and it will exactly follow the similar thing that we have done on the sales order creation VS01. So right now we just entered in the application, so we don't require to put any username and the password to log in the system again. Only we are putting those information which are required to check or validate whenever we are using VS02T transactions code. Now once the modification of the sales order is done, then again we will come back to the main process flow, and then again we will check whether the modification has been done successfully or not. And if it is done successfully, then we will move to VS03, the transaction code that is for displaying the sales order. Similarly, we are putting some information over on our tool, and we are just putting actions, what we need to do one by one. So once the model is ready, then our tool is ready to load the model and to generate the script. So that will show you on our next video. So here are the different options are available over on our tool. So we can capture any value within this as a variable. So let's say for a process VS02, if we need to set some test data and which can be accessed for our next transaction, that is for the VS03. So we can easily capture all of those values and we can put it as a variable, and we can access that variable for our entire transactions testing. So we are showing over here, how to put different values over on this field, form field. So here are the different options are available. If you see, so we can put a single value for a form field. We can state the different value list. Value list means we can create a different set of values for a particular form. Then here is the option we can select as I mentioned the test data we can take as an input from an external spreadsheet. So these options are available. So it is a very easy and handy to make the execution very fast in manner, and the effort that is required for a manual testing, it can reduce by 80% of while we will be automating the system. So only we just need to maintain the proper business flow or the actions, and then we need to put all of those test data accordingly. So these are the options available on this tool. Now we'll move to the next stage or the next step, which is the test case generation and load the model. So for our first video, what we have done, so we have created all of the structure design and the activity diagram. Now it's required to load the model and then compile and to prepare the tool so that we can easily generate the test cases. Now let's see how we do that. So these are the previous steps that we have already captured. So now we are going to, so these three buttons are already available in our tool. So by clicking within a moment, it would be ready for compile, ready to generate the test and ready to export those test cases. And let's see how it does. So we click on load model. So you can see below the screens, the processing is there. So how much of the percentage has been covered already. So once the model load is done, then our next step is to compile that model so that a system can generate and system can be ready for to generate and export the test cases. So we are just behind of a one click of one button click. We don't require to put any manual effort, and the tool doesn't take too much of time to prepare all of those steps or all of those test cases. Now over here, our tool is also give us the some kind of the analysis report while those activity diagram and the structure diagram are properly compiled. We can go through one by one node structure. So if we have some any flaws or any kind of errors on the information would be available over on this tool. So you can see each and every node. So every square shape of box is called the activity box, and each activity is called as a node, and every node has a different kind of information or over there. So we can easily see how much of the the coverage has been done through this tool, and if there is any kind of information is available, so we can also identify which are those. The exclamation icon is for that, so there is some information missing. Because of that, for this demo purpose, we took only for the positive testing. So we do not take any negative test. So that's why two conditional operator was there, and for those conditional operator, we didn't take care of the negative part of the testing. Now, once the test review is done from the left-hand side, you can see how many of actions are being processed over on this tool, and you can click on every set of actions, and you can see the details of it. So now our tool is ready to export those test cases. Now we are going to export those test cases. So while we'll be exporting the test case, as Mr. Shakar mentioned, our tool will be, provide all of those test cases in a proper Excel formatted way. So here we can see the total project name, how many of activity diagrams are there and how many we have processed so far. If there is any kind of the conditional branching are available, so we can also see. You can see over there the conditional branching showing only 50%. So that means we took only the positive testing for all of those conditional testing. So that's why it's showing the 50%. And now from the left side, left hand column, it's showing the how many of steps are involved in each of those test cases. And for our demo, this test case has in total 40 steps. So while we'll be running the execution, our execution tool or automation tool will run through one after one, and it will execute every action, whatever we have mentioned in our business flow diagram. Now here is the traceability matrix is also attached, so we can see how many of actions are being performed and which are not performed, so we can easily track. Now let's see what are the other part of it. So as we mentioned, our tool is much more capable to export the test scripts for any other third-party automation tool like which are available in our market like HP USC for Microsoft VSTS or open source tool Selenium. So for our demo purpose, we just took an example for the UFT framework. So we have exported all of those test scripts which would be compatible for the UFT framework. So let's see what are the file structure, while we'll be importing for the UFT framework. So here are the test cases, test execution, and the harness file. So if you recall, sometimes back, Mr. Shogar already gave us some example, the what is about the test harness. So test harness is the bridge between our test automation tool and the test execution tool. It will take help from the harness file, so it basically finds out which are the functions, which are the specially test functions are available, which are need to run, and it will accordingly it will relate with the functions which are available or the screen objects available on the targeted application area. So in our example, we are going to complete the test over SAP VS01, 02, and 03. So UFT only take care all of those parts. So you can see from the left side the harness functions is named there. Now over on that the OR mapping, so we would be putting which is the object available in the SAP screen. Here is the object path in application under the test. Now we'll move to the application area or the UFT screen where all of those objects are captured as a repository, and over on that the repository all of those objects are being related with the test functions. So here are those captured objects. Now once the object creation is done and once the mapping is done, then only we are just one step beyond, that is run the execution, run the automation, and a couple of settings are required to put over on that the UFT. So once the settings done properly, then we'll go to the run the execution, and before run the execution we need to close the session of the SAP environment, and we need to open a new session of it. So we are just opening the new session. Now our test execution will start, and it will automatically put all of those object fields, and it will put all of those test data, whatever we have captured during our test modeling and the generation of the test scripts. So let's see how it does. So system automatically putting the username and the password to enter the application area. So we are in the application. Now system will put the VA01, that is for the sales order creation transaction code, and we are putting some of the mandatory fields to create the sales order. And this is the form where we need to put some information in order to create this particular sales order. So system or the automation script or the UFT, whatever you can say. So we are putting, or we are already put those information as a backend, and then we are putting it in our application. So new sales order has been created. So system is going to the second business process, that is to validate the sales order VA02, and just taking a random value from the order list, that is 20, and it's updating some of those information over there, like the INCO location 1, and then INCO version, and the payment terms, and the billing block. So this modification are being done from our automation script. So here on this area, so the automation once done, so once the the execution is done, and once the display of this order has been done successfully, then only we'll move to the test report. And once the report is being generated, our successfully automation will also be done. So now I'll also request to Mr. Sharkar again to take it through.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hope you had a good view of the demo, and I hope the demo has been able to give a lot of clarity, bring about a lot of clarity to what I was walking you through in the PPT or the slides. We now have time for question and answer, so I will wait for any questions that you may have. Request you to please put your questions on the chat window. Do we have any questions? In case we have questions, request you to please mention them in the chat window.
Yeah, modeling a complex thing to do in testing. It is there in the chat window. Can you see it?
Yes, Ankur. Hello. I just want to know how the automation will gonna benefit me. Ankur, can you hear us? So the question that you asked for, you want to know, what would be the benefit for using this automation. So the first and the foremost benefit would be the time. So it will reduce the, the huge manual effort. Let's say for to test a particular application which requires for a manual effort of 1 month. So by using this tool, we can reduce down the, the 60 to 80% of it. So that is the most beneficial area of this. And you can also understand, when the time gets reduced, then also similarly cost also, get reduced. And in not in terms to that, so the accuracy, so whenever you are manually testing something, some human errors are available there. But in terms to our case of while we are, making the everything in an automated way, while we are run the automation step, so there is a very less amount of error. So let's say you can, 99% would be accurate in terms to the coveraging each of the test cases and to complete the test, and it also help us for the regression testing. Hello everyone. Thanks for participating on this webinar to make this webinar successful. So hope we have cleared all of your doubts what you have in your mind. So if you have any more questions or in near future if you find any kind of solutions or which is related to our test automation, and if you want to add some information on our test automation tool, so feel free to get in touch with us, and we have just collect our email ID once the session is done, and just email back to us, and we'll give back to you with the positive feedback. Thank you, and hope we are ready to end this session.